Now, number one, we minimize removal of trees. Okay, we're passionate environmentalists here. If they are well managed and understood, you can integrate them into the home. And as long as you understand the risk and you mitigate that risk, I believe, as long as they are well placed and positioned, then you can integrate them into your property. Number two is then, wherever possible, we choose FireWise plants. The key thing is they're less likely to burn. So typically, if you crush the leaf, they're not going to have that Australiana smell. You know, that beautiful Australiana smell is volatile oils. You will not see many of those beautiful, what we would call those Australiana plants within that FireWise mix. Paperbarks and all those other beautiful but flammable plants that have such an important role to play in the ecosystem, you don't plant them near your house, and you don't put them between your house and the prevailing wind and areas where you're more likely to get the vector of fire coming through. Our FireWise plants are often as well, they might be succulent, so they have a thick waxy coating on them, and the important thing is we're trying to make it hard for fire to grab hold of and burn those plants and use them as fuel. So this is all recycled rubble, and we call it C&D mulch, construction and demolition waste. And the reason why we use the rock threefold. Number one, it doesn't burn. Put the embers on a starvation diet. There's thousands and thousands of them, often fueled and fanned by a catastrophic firestorm wind, are literally raining down on your home. Any gaps that are more than 2 mils, embers can get in. Between 80 and 90% of houses that are destroyed across Australia through fire, it's ember attack. But if the embers land and there's nothing for them to feed on, you get the precious gap of time. You have the ability to maybe defend, or these amazing men and women can come in and do the work that they do to help save lives and property. So the important thing to keep in mind is it's the fine fuels, it's the leaf litter, it's the dead grasses, the wild oats, tambuki grass, African love grass. They are the enemy of you and your safety. Please don't butcher the bushland, but the important thing to keep in mind is it's those fine fuels. They are the ones that the embers will feed on first. So when you walk around this garden, you can do a mental note. Does a rock burn? No. Tick. Does a bird bath burn? No. Tick. Does a big rock that you can see where I'm going with this. Everything that's in here, and we strategically have some wood, but it's big wood. If that wood is starting to burn, you've got bigger problems. And we have even put great big logs in our landscapes as well. We remove the bark because the bark can burn, but we're trying to say to people that there are lots of things that can go into a FireWise garden if you are careful and you considered with your design. The other thing about things like gabions and big logs, they can be radiant heat shields, which is a fancy way of saying you or some animals can hide behind that and get buffering and protection from the heat from a fire. And it may be just enough if the fire front goes through that you can shelter behind it, or animals can as well. And rubble mulch is actually the most effective mulch that we have. So the rock holds very little water, yet a lot of the mulches that we are sold are black mulches, and they're more like black and brown cotton wool. They actually absorb the water. So if we're not careful, we can choose a mulch that actually doesn't work. But the rubble mulch is by far the most effective of the mulches we can use, and it comes with a 10,000-year warranty. So what is better than that? The third principle of a FireWise garden is gaps, horizontally and vertically. An ember wants to land on a tangled mess of half-dead and dying material, so it can just easily gorge on one bit and move to the next. But if it has to land and then there's no food and there's no food nearby, vertically or horizontally, the embers will die. The plants are separated by bird baths, by paths, all those different things that make it difficult for the fire to get momentum. And the fourth principle of a FireWise garden: management, management, management. So you can have the most beautiful FireWise garden, but if you're just allowing it to become a tangled mess, it's not really going to do its job for very long.